They were sure surrender meant a nightmare, forbidden acts, impossible cruelty, danger lurking in every shadow. October 1944, icy night in Iowa. 12 German women froze in terror, convinced the enemy would destroy them. But when the door finally opened, what they got wasn't hatred or violence, but kindness. The most shocking part? Their greatest threat wasn't brutality, it was discovering that everything they'd been told about the enemy was an unbelievable lie. October 1944. The cold Iowa wind sliced through the barracks as 12 German women huddled together, hearts pounding so loudly they could barely hear the world around them. They'd been warned 1,000 times in propaganda briefings and whispered rumors. Surrender to Americans was unthinkable, a forbidden risk, promising only brutality and shame. Every step in the darkness, every voice outside, sent a wave of terror crashing through the group. Liesl Vanner, just 19, gripped Greta Hoffman's hand so tight her knuckles whitened, fearing the door would burst open at any moment with impossible violence. Greta, a schoolteacher who'd become their stand-in leader, forced herself to stand guard by the only entrance, determined that if betrayal came, she'd be first to meet it, ready to sacrifice herself for the younger girls. Each woman remembered the posters plastered across Hamburg. Americans depicted as beasts, criminal faces leering above threats of torture. Elsa Zimmerman, 27, fluent in English, scanned the small, pine-scented room, seeing fear etched into every face, from Freda Becker, clutching her mother's photo with silent tears, to Helga Richter, who hid vulnerability behind sharp logic. As midnight approached, they heard footsteps crunching gravel. Everyone froze, a dangerous promise fulfilled, expectation of pain and humiliation. But instead, the knock at the door was gentle, the voice outside gruff yet unexpectedly polite. "Ladies, this is Sergeant Brennan. I'm the night watch supervisor. If you need anything, blankets, water, just ring the bell. Otherwise, I'll stay out of your way. Good night." The footsteps retreated into silence. The door never opened. No shouting, no threat, no violation. "Is it a trick?" Ingrid Weber whispered, voice barely audible. Her question hovered, a forbidden suspicion, each woman wondering if the kindness was part of the cruel game. Helga shook her head. "If they wanted to hurt us, they wouldn't knock." Greta forced confidence into her reply. "We survived. Together. That's all." In that moment, the group clung to each other, not from unity but from shared terror. 1 hour became 2, each crunched step passed without incident, every routine round revealing nothing except professionalism and aging knees under moonlight. Exhaustion gradually overcame fear. By dawn, the world outside seemed almost normal, but confusion replaced terror. Could it really be possible the enemy would show restraint, dignity, even respect? Breakfast arrived, bread, coffee, simple cereal, delivered by another quiet young guard who called Elsa ma'am. For a split second, Elsa's walls slipped. She thanked him automatically. The guard nodded, eyes lowered, replying in perfect Midwestern politeness, "You're welcome, ma'am." The second day mirrored the first. Rounds, meals, a bell for requests. When one inmate needed the bathroom, a female staff member escorted her for privacy, unthinkable in every rumor they'd heard. By day 5, some began to sleep through the night. By day 7, routines replaced fear. Yet the emotional stakes only climbed. Could they believe their eyes when every lesson before had taught the opposite? Work detail brought Private Crawford, Nebraska farm boy, surprisingly bashful, greeting Elsa just as he'd probably greet his mother. The women braced for forbidden cruelty. Instead, he showed awkward, steady professionalism. Then 9 days in, a needle broke in Freda's hand. Crawford gave her another, with a genuine smile and words of encouragement that sounded shockingly normal, almost kind. That evening, Freda recounted, "He smiled, not dangerously. Just kindly. Like I mattered." Helga replied, "You are a person." But even she sounded shaken. If kindness was real, what had their government done to their thinking? Through weeks, the pattern held. No threats, no pain. Guards ranged from friendly to simply professional, but all respected boundaries. Blanket surprises, dietary questions from Thomas Mitchell the cook. "Any vegetarians?" Even small packages of cookies delivered without strings attached. Each act chipped away at years of propaganda, igniting grief and suspicion in equal measure. By week 4, Elsa forced herself to confront the reality. The respect was not a tactic but true behavior, rooted in rules and something older, the golden rule. Late one night, she finally asked Sergeant Brennan, "Why do you treat us this way?" "We are German. We are your enemy." Brennan's reply lingered in the frigid air, "We follow the Geneva Convention. But mostly we remember our mothers." We treat you as we'd hope our daughters would be treated. The 28 days since capture had erupted in a battle more shocking than any war, the fight to believe the world was not what they'd been told. As winter deepened outside, Elsa and the other women stared into an unknown future, caught between old fears and the unthinkable possibility the enemy could be human after all. And beneath the surface, the cracks in their worldview grew wider, setting the stage for transformation none could have foreseen. The second month at Camp Alona unfolded with a strange rhythm, one that never matched the horror stories these women had grown up believing. Where they expected danger, they found dull routine. Elsa, forced into leadership by her English and experience, began documenting each day's unlikely calm: breakfast trays, work assignments, and the mechanics of life far from the front. Work duty meant repairing uniforms at a long table in a drafty shed, supervised first by Crawford, then by Corporal Martin. Crawford's kindness, unexpected as a summer breeze in winter, set the women on edge. Freda's broken needle and his gentle help, just a tiny exchange but one that melted fear a little. The entire group struggled with how to respond. Should they be grateful? Suspicious? Confused? Every act of help, every moment of respect was a test of their loyalty to propaganda versus the evidence of their own senses. By week 3 the weather turned severe. Blankets appeared. No request made, no delay, just simple human warmth. Helga, always skeptical, ran her fingers over the wool and remembered the rationed remnants back home in Berlin. "Who authorized this?" she asked Brennan, her words sharp, almost accusatory. "Geneva Convention. Commander ordered it," he replied matter of fact. The phrase sat heavy in the barracks. Rules mattered. Maybe, just maybe, compassion mattered even more. Meals improved. A new cook, Thomas Mitchell, asked directly about allergies and food preferences, intent on avoiding sickness. The request stunned the group. Elsa translated, struggling over the meaning. Americans caring if German prisoners got sick? It felt absurd. Ingrid, the battle-hardened nurse, saw what their own doctors had often failed to show: respect for basic health. The world outside remained dangerous and unstable. Elsa worried for her students back in Hamburg, children she'd once lectured about national superiority. She questioned her own teaching. Was she complicit in the lies that had shaped an entire generation's fear? The other women wrestled with similar guilt. The erosion of certainty brought not relief but a kind of grief. Within the barracks, the tension became internal. Talk turned to what would happen if true brutality returned. A new supervisor, new guards, unpredictable policy. When Corporal Martin took charge, his cold professionalism was a shock. Instructions were curt, eyes avoided, interactions minimal. But even Martin's discomfort came with boundaries. He was not cruel, just distant. Helga's observation, "Civilization means rules even when kindness is not present," circulated among the bunks. For the first time, the women realized that Americans, like Germans, had individuals with different personalities, but a system governed their conduct. Midway through the 5th week, a fight erupted between male prisoners. The group watched through the window as American guards separated the brawlers swiftly, tended wounds, issued discipline without violence. Ingrid described the punishment practices she'd seen in German camps: how beatings replaced discussions, how men sometimes died. Seeing Americans treat enemies with humanity was unnervingly clarifying. That evening, Elsa stepped outside, heart hammering. She spoke with Brennan, pressing for understanding. "Why do you treat us well?" she asked, the forbidden question at last spoken aloud. Brennan's answer, centered on rules, responsibility, and imagining his own daughters, left Elsa shaken. Helga articulated the unspoken realization. 6 years they told us Americans were monsters and it was all lies. What else did they lie about? The truth rippled across the barracks. Women began to question not just propaganda but everything: politics, war, history, the righteousness of their own suffering. The process was painful and necessary, as grief for lost certainty clashed with gratitude for unexpected kindness. Freda's struggle illustrated the emotional cost. The youngest among them, she broke under the weight of disillusionment, sobbing as she admitted, "I don't know what's true anymore." Ingrid reassured her the only truth was what they saw and lived, a lesson learned the hard way inside prison walls. Slowly, acts of kindness replaced suspicion. Mitchell's cookies for Freda, a smile from Crawford, blankets in the cold, each one built a new reality. The women began to help each other reconstruct their inner world. Elsa wrote drafts of letters she'd send home, weighing every word, hoping to bring some measure of truth to family living under a regime of lies. Transformation, however, was not easy. Every moment of decency was shadowed by guilt, by memories of propaganda, by fears that faith in humanity was itself dangerous. Yet, as the weeks passed and small acts of respect accumulated, the women became less defined by fear and more by the courage to question, and to hope, however tentatively, that the impossible was becoming real. The barriers between enemy and person began to fracture, setting the stage for even greater tests ahead. 6 weeks into their captivity, the emotional strain inside Camp Alona reached a breaking point. For Elsa and the others, every day had become a silent war, not just against boredom or homesickness, but the gnawing realization that the foundation of their beliefs had collapsed. The propaganda that had fueled their nightmares was now exposed as a lie, and the women found themselves trapped between old terrors and the unsettling truth. It was Freda Becker who finally voiced what they all felt. After weeks of emotional withdrawal, she collapsed in tears one morning, unable to face another day. "I don't know what's real anymore," she cried. "How can I trust myself or anyone?" Her heartbreak was more dangerous than any guard. They all knew it. Ingrid took her hand. "You trust what you live. Let experience decide. Not the stories you inherited." The crisis deepened when a physical fight erupted among German men in the main camp next door. The women watched from behind frosted windows, hearts thumping as American guards rushed in, not with brutality but with restraint and care. The injured were carried, not dragged, to the infirmary. Orders were issued, voices stayed low, and most shocking of all, not a single blow was delivered in anger. Ingrid whispered, "At home, punishment is pain. Here, punishment is isolation. It's rules, not rage." Her words hung in the air, transforming fear into wonder, and for some, shame. Elsa, racked by doubt and curiosity, knew she had to confront the American system head-on. That evening, she stepped outside to speak with Sergeant Brennan, the air cold enough to burn her cheeks. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you treat us this way, your enemies?" Brennan replied quietly, eyes reflecting years not just of war but of living among women. "We follow rules, ma'am. But it's more than that. Most of us have daughters. We treat prisoners as we hope our daughters would be treated." Inside, Elsa shared this with her group. Helga, usually stoic, was the first to break down. 6 years they filled us with poison. 6 years they made us hate and fear. What if my brother died fighting because he believed lies? Her question triggered an avalanche of confessions. "My father wrote those stories. But now I see he was wrong or just repeating what he was told." The women grieved, not just for lost beliefs but for the years, families and friendships sacrificed on the altar of propaganda. The group's emotional turmoil reached its climax the day Freda was called aside by Thomas Mitchell, the cook. He handed her homemade cookies from his daughter, offering warmth with no strings attached. Freda burst into tears, not from fear but from the shock of genuine kindness. That night, as she recounted the gesture, laughter and tears spilled across the barracks. Elsa realized the transformation was complete. Suspicion had turned into tentative trust. Trust not in the system or the world but in real, small human acts. Their crisis wasn't a single dramatic event, but 1,000 quiet moments. Letters home had to be written, the hardest task of all. Elsa chose words carefully, hinting at the truth without crossing censors. Americans follow rules. We are safe. Treated with care. Freda wrote with painful honesty, surviving the discovery that what you believed was wrong is harder than surviving war. Helga's words were blunt. Think about what you were told, sister. Think carefully. The uncertainty of the future pressed in. They knew Germany was crumbling. They would return not to triumph but ruins. What then would they build? What story would they tell, and would anyone believe it? Will anyone accept the truth? Freda asked one night. Helga replied, "Some will. Some won't. But we will, and it changes everything." The real climax was subtle but irreversible. Years of narrative had been shattered not by argument, but by direct experience, by cookies and blankets and the respectful address, "Ma'am." In the darkness, Elsa realized the struggle would continue as long as stories had power, but now she carried the burden and the gift of truth. As the harsh winter thawed, hope began to creep into the barracks. The hardest battle had been fought and won, not over territory or weapons but inside themselves. Courage was not just surviving captivity, but surviving the collapse of everything they trusted. Even as the war outside burned on, Elsa and the women discovered the unexpected. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon of all is a truth that breaks every impossible belief.